Hey everyone, welcome back to Coding for Kids. Today we'll be showing you guys how to code the snake game that we started coding on Saturday. Okay, so this is just a demo of the game. So when you start the game, it's always going to ask you for what color you want the skin of your snake to be. So I'm just going to pick purple. And right when you hit enter, the game is going to start. And every time you eat the apple, you get longer, and every time you run off the green, the game ends. So here's another demo with the skin turning into another color. So we can do orange, and it's always going to get longer as it eats the apples, and it's going to die when it runs off the green. Okay, so I'll be showing you guys how to code this project today. So I'm going to minimize it and hit create so I can start a new canvas. Okay. All right, so it's always a good habit to name your document. So I'm going to name this snake game recorded. And first things first, we have to make a sprite for the snake. So the way we're going to make our snake is by just using a dot and duplicating it over and over so that the dot trails behind the first dot and it produces a snake-like effect. So we're going to get rid of the sprite and we'll make a new sprite. So you want to hover over to the sprite and hit paint. And then you want to go into costumes and you want to pick your paint tool, and I'm going to just change the size to 50 because after experimenting that looked like a good size. And I'm just going to literally make a dot just like that. So that's going to be my first skin of the snake, the purple skin. Next, I'm going to add a costume. So I'm just going to paint another costume, and this time I'm going to make my skin red. So I'm just going to make a red dot. So I just have to drag everything to the right to make the paintbrush red. So I'm just make another dot, and that's my red skin. And next I want to make my blue skin. So I'm just going to hit paint again. And now I'm going to make a blue dot. And that's my blue skin. And finally, I'm going to make one last skin, and this is going to be the orange skin. So I have to drag everything to the left because this is where the orange colors are. And yeah, you just have to adjust it so until you hit orange. And yeah, that looks orangish, brownish enough. So let's just call that our orange skin. Okay, so it's also important to name your skin so that you know what they are when you're referring to them. So I'm going to name the purple skin purple, the red skin red, the blue skin blue, and the orange skin orange. Okay, so that's just going to be our snake variable or snake sprite. Oh, we should also name our sprite so that we can refer to it as the snake. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to code the snake so that we can control it with our arrow keys. So in order to do that, I'm going to make a new variable and I'm going to call it direction. And basically, I'm going to control the direction that my snake faces with the direction variable. So first, I'm going to drag out 4 set direction to blocks, just like that. And I'm going to set each one to a different direction. So the first one I'm going to make right. The second one I'm going to make left. The third one I'm going to make up. And the fourth one I'm going to make down. And it would make sense for the snake to change its direction when the corresponding key is clicked. So that would mean that the snake faces the right direction when the right key is pressed, and it faces the left direction when the left key is pressed, and so on. So the way I would control that is by going to the events and using the when blank key is pressed. So I'm just going to add 4 of those to each block so that I'm able to control the direction. And since I want the snake to go right, I'm going to hit the right arrow, and to go left, you need to be clicking the left arrow. To go up, you want to click the up arrow, and to go down, you want to click the down arrow. Okay, so this just tells Scratch what we want to do with our directions, but we're not really doing anything with them. So the way I would fix that is by dragging when green flag is clicked. Oh, that's going to be in the events. When green flag is clicked, you always want the snake to show. So just in case the user hides the snake or something, you want it to show, so it's always there. And then you want to do go to 0, 0. So the snake always starts off in the center. So I'm just going to go to 0, comma 0, comma 0. Okay. Now when our snake is in the center, when the green arrow is clicked, I always want the snake to start going to the right. So I'm going to set the direction to right. So I just have to type in right. And inside a forever loop, which I can find inside control, I'm going to be placing the if statements that are going to control my snake's motion. So since there's 4 directions that my snake can go, I'm going to be using 4 if statements. Just like that. Okay, now we have to use equal to operators in order to create the condition inside our if statement. So I'm going to go to the equal to operator, and actually I'm just going to duplicate the operator. So I'm just going to make one, duplicate it 4 times, and put them all into the if blocks. So in order to check my direction, I have to use a circle block from the variables, and I'm going to duplicate this 3 times so that I have 4 blocks to put inside the if statements. Okay, so you might be wondering, why do we have a 50 inside our operators? And you're right, the code won't work with the number inside the operator. We have to refer to it in the same language that our directions are written in, which is English, which are words. So basically we're going to make this, if direction is right, we want to change the x by +5. So by default, there's going to be a 10, but that's really fast, meaning the snake's going to be moving too fast. So I'm just going to make that 5, and I can duplicate that and place it here because we are going to be making this left. And since left is the opposite of right, we want to make this -5. And then we want to make this up, and then this is down. And since up and down are dictated by the y-axis, we have to change our values on the y-axis. So I'm just going to place change y by and change y by. So once again, this is going to be a +5, and down is -5 on the y-axis. So just like that. And you can see when I run the code, it's always going to start off in the center, and you can see me control it with my arrow keys. And the direction shows up on the top left. I'm going to hide that later so it's not blocking our screen or anything, but this is the basic movement code for the snake sprite. Okay, so let's stop that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is make our backdrops. So I would like to have 2 backdrops for this project. One is like the game screen, and the other one is the loading screen, which allows you to pick your colors and whatnot. So I'm going to hit backdrop, and I'm going to hit paint. And for my game screen, all I want it to be is just a rectangle, just one rectangle, so that I can dictate the bounds of the gaming area. So I'm going to make this green, and I'm going to make this rectangle green. So I just pick a green color, just like that, and I draw out the rectangle, just like that. Okay, so we can see that there's a lot of area left on the bottom, so I'm just gonna drag that down so it looks more uniform. And personally, I think that looks good. And we don't want the outline on our figure, so I'm going to get rid of that by clicking on the mouse pointer, clicking on the figure that we want to get rid of the outline on, and getting rid of it. And once we click out of the menu, you can see that the rectangle on our screen no longer has an outline. So if you're not satisfied with the placement of your rectangle, you can just tinker with the bounds of your rectangle so that it's pretty much uniform on all sides. Okay, so personally, I'm satisfied with that. So I'm just going to name this the game screen. And for the sake of this video, I'm just making it green and just a solid color. But if you want to add any designs or etc., feel free to do so. Feel free to customize it like you want to. And the first backdrop is actually going to be our loading screen. I'll get rid of the space so that my syntax stays uniform. Okay, loading screen. And on the loading screen, I want the character to be able to pick 4 different colors. And in order to do so, they need to know what the 4 different colors are. So I'm just going to draw a tiny little design, and it's nothing serious. So actually, yeah, I'm going to just draw a small design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick rectangles that are all different colors and just place them on top of each other so it creates like a staggering kind of effect. So I'm just going to place that there. Oh, that was pretty good placement of it. I really like it. And next I'm going to just pick another color rectangle. So let's do this bluish greenish color. And oh, we're moving that rectangle. We have to click out of it first. Okay, now we can make our purple rectangle. So once again, feel free to customize the loading screen however you want. I'm just doing this because for the sake of the video, so it's not too long, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm going to do 1 more or 2 more rectangles so it looks good. I'll do this. Oh shoot, I need it to be purple. And I'm going to click out and I'm going to change its color so that it's a light orangish color. And I'm going to draw another rectangle with the side of it. It's like yellow actually. And draw that, place it there. Oh, I'm actually not satisfied with the placement of this, so I'm just going to click on it with my mouse pointer tool, and I can adjust it using the guides. Okay, I'm good with that, and I'm just going to do 1 more rectangle. So pick the rectangle tool again and choose your color, and I really want to do this super dark red color, and I'm just going to add that in the middle of the screen. And I think that's good. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to add a text box, and I'm going to adjust my text color so that it's black. Okay, so I'm going to say, welcome to the snake, oops, can't spell, snake game, exclamation mark. And I'm just going to move this so that it's like better centered. And I'm going to actually make the font smaller, which actually no, I like it going over multiple colors like that. I'm just going to leave it like that. And now I need to tell the user what their options for colors are. So your snake skin colors are, and then we have red, blue, no, we don't have green. We have purple and orange. Okay. Yeah. Actually, I'm just going to make it snake colors. Grammarly's trying to help out, but I don't really need it here. Okay. And I'm just going to, yeah, leave it like that. I think that looks good enough. Except one thing. I'm going to see if I can make these centered. Can I? Oh yeah, I can. Well, the tab doesn't work. I'm just gonna, actually, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Okay, so those are by two backdrops, the loading screen and the gaming screen. Actually, now that I look at this, this is like super bright, so I'm just going to um, reduce its saturation so that it's like not quite as bright and hurts your eyes to look at. Okay, anyways, those are the two screens. So we're gonna go back into our snake sprite and we're gonna just pick the purple costume, and we're actually gonna adjust some of these event blocks. So the first thing we have to adjust is this part right here. So we always want we want the snake to show up when our screen switches over to the gaming screen, right? So you have to go into your events and do when backdrop switches to gaming screen or game screen. And immediately when the flag is clicked, you actually want the snake to hide because you don't want it to show up when the user is, whoops, when the user is making their color selection. So that's how we're gonna do that. Okay, so basically now when we immediately click the green flag, our snake is gonna hide. It's only going to show up when we switch to the game screen. Okay, now we're gonna make the code where the snake is going to end the game if it runs onto the white space out of the green space. So we're gonna do that with another if statement. So add that there. And you want to go into the sensing and grab the touching color block. And you want it to end the game when it touches the white color. So you can use that, you can select that by using the eyedropper tool and selecting white. Okay, now when it's touching white, you want it to just end the game. So actually, I wanted to say something and then end the game. So I'm gonna say game over. And I'm going to wait half a second, which is in the control category, so 0.5 seconds, and then I'm going to stop all. Okay. So that's just going to stop the game when the snake runs onto the white. So we haven't really done anything to make the snake look like a snake. And what I mean by that is it's just a dot moving around right now. So the way we're going to control that is by making a length variable. So the length variable is going to be used to control the length of the snake. So we're going to hit make a new variable, and I'm just going to name this length, just like that. And initially, I want the snake to have some length, right? So I'm going to set the length to 0.1. And don't forget to change it here. So, yep, that's what it's supposed to look like. And then you want to use the create a clone block so that there's a bunch of clones behind the snake and it actually looks like a snake instead of just a dot. So you're going to use this block, create a clone, And you're going to place it out of the if statement, but inside the forever loop because you want the clones to always be created, but you don't want them to be created only when you're touching white. And if you're going to just create a clone, there's going to be so many clones that your snake's just going to keep growing for no apparent reason. So in order to restrict the growth of those clones, you're going to do, when I start as a clone, you want to um, delete this clone. So delete this clone, but you can't just immediately delete it. You have to wait for a certain amount of time. So you're going to wait for the amount of time that corresponds to length. Okay, so what I did here is kind of confusing. So I named the variable length, but in actuality, I'm actually calling it the time that the clone can stay alive for. So you're constantly creating clones of yourself, and unless you delete those clones, you're just going to have a really, really, really long snake. So in order to restrict that, you're going to wait for a certain amount of time and delete those clones. And if you wait the same amount of time, which I would be doing if I didn't have this length variable in there, the snake would stay at a constant length. But I want it to change, especially when I eat the apples. So now I'm going to be creating an apple code, the apples being the food, and that's going to change the length variable as the snake eats the apples. So the more apples I eat, the longer the snake is going to get because the length is going to change. Okay, so that's really confusing. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to create an apple, and there's already a default apple sprite in Scratch, so I'm just going to hit choose a sprite, and I'm going to pick apple. And inside the apple code, first I'm going to reduce its size. It's really big, so I'm just going to make it 35 and check out how, oh, that's perfect. Okay, so we want the same thing to happen to this as with the snake, meaning we want this sprite to hide immediately when the green flag is clicked. We only want it to show up when it's the loading screen, or sorry, when it's the gaming screen. So the way I code that is by going into events and grabbing the when flag clicked. I want the apple to hide. So immediately when the flag is clicked, the apple is going to hide. But when the backdrop switches to the gaming screen or the game screen, you want it to show. And that's how you do that. But you don't always want it to show at one spot. You want it to pick a random location to pop up in. So the way we would do that is by going to motion and using the XY block. And if you just put the XY block in there, it's always going to pick the same location to show up. So the way you would change that is by adding a pick random operator inside the X and Y spots. So that's how that looks. And 1 in 10, the coordinate range for that is way too small. So in order to determine the X coordinate range, you want to see what the max coordinate of the green screen is, and that's -205. And then you want to see what the max coordinate, the positive max coordinate on the other side is, and that's 214. So this immediately tells me that my green rectangle, the game screen, isn't perfectly centered, but that's okay, it's close enough. And then the highest y coordinate is going to be 163, and the lowest y coordinate is going to be -150. And when you're doing this, make sure you always have the negative value on the left and the positive value on the right, just like this. Okay, now inside a forever loop, I'm going to create the code that basically changes the score as I touch the snake. Touch the snake meaning the snake eats the apple. So first I'm going to have an if then block, and then I'm going to go into the sensing and touching. I'm going to grab the touching block, and if it's touching the snake, I want to change the score, but we don't have a score variable yet. So let's go ahead and make that first. So make a variable, score. And I'm actually going to hide these two because we don't need to see them for now. So score. And you want to change the score by 1 every time the snake touches the apple, or apple touches the snake. It's the same thing. And you also want to change the length of the snake because you want to make the snake longer, right? So you're going to use this change block one more time, and you're going to make it change the length, and you're going to change it by 0.2. So every time you change its length, meaning the time that the clone can stay alive for, you're basically increasing the lifespan of that clone. And by increasing the lifespan of that clone, the tail behind the snake is alive for a longer period of time. So this tail gets longer and longer and longer. So once it does that, you want it to hide and go back to, oh, that duplicated the entire thing. We just want the go to block. So just duplicate that one block and place it inside the code. And so every time the snake touches the apple's immediately going to go to a new location that's completely randomized. Okay, so now we have the code for the snake to change the score and its length as it touches the apple. Now we have to configure the loading screen. And what I mean by that is you have to make the code that allows the user to pick what color snakeskin he wants. Okay, so the way I would do that is by going over to choose a sprite, and it really doesn't matter what sprite you pick because we're going to hide this sprite so the user won't be able to see it. So I'm just going to click basketball because why not? And the first thing we want the basketball to do when the green flag is clicked is just immediately hide because we don't want the user to be seeing the sprite. And we never initialized the score to be 0. So we're going to do that here. So we're always going to set score to 0 when the green flag is clicked. And then you want to switch the backdrop to the loading screen. Whoops. Switch the backdrop to the loading screen. And you want it to ask, in the sensing, you want it to ask the user, hey, what color do you want? So what color do you want your snake to be? Okay, we've given the user 4 different choices. So once again, those are purple, red, blue, and orange. So we need to make 4 if statements that allow the user, that basically change the snake skin to that color based on what the user's answer is. So that would mean I would have 4 if statements inside the code. And using the default answer variable, I have to check what the user's answer is. So I'm gonna put that in there and duplicate it 4 times or 3 times because I already have 1 copy. And I'm going to change this to red, blue, purple, and orange. So you can just put that in there, put that in there, put that in there, and put that in there. Okay. And now we have to, or we're going to come back to what we're going to put in the if-then statements, but there's one other thing that we need to do first. We have to basically reject the user from playing the game if the user enters a choice that's none of the options that we gave them, right? So we're going to use another if statement to achieve that. And we're going to use 3 or statements so that we can check the user's answer choice. Okay, so we're going to duplicate each one of these. If answer is purple or orange or blue, and make sure you only place it in the diamond that shines, because if you try placing it in a larger or in the large or statement, that's going to replace it and it's not going to be good. Okay, so place that in there. Okay, now we want to drop this entire thing in a not statement and drop the entire thing in the if-then statement. So basically what this code is going to do is it's going to check if the user's answer is not orange, purple, blue, or red, then you want it to end the game. Stop all. We do that by using stop all. Okay, now inside the if statements based on what the user picks. Okay, so based on what the user picks, I want the basketball sprite to broadcast a message. So go into events and broadcast message 1. I'm going to duplicate this 3 times. And I'm going to make a new message. I'm going to make a message called red, make a message called blue. I'm also going to make a message called purple. And I'm also going to make a message called orange. So I would just place all of those inside this, or inside their corresponding if statements. Okay, so let's just quickly talk about what this code's doing. It's setting the score to 0, switching the backdrop to the loading screen, and it's asking for the user to enter a color that they want their snake to be. So red, blue, purple, or orange. And based on that choice, it's broadcasting a statement to all the other sprites to basically get ready for that answer choice. And getting ready means basically just switching the color of the snake's skin. So we're just going to move these off to the top so that they're not in our way. There's a few more down here. And then move that down. Okay. So next thing you have to do is basically make multiple broadcast receiving statements. So when I receive that, and that, and don't forget you have to change it so it's multiple ones every time. So orange, blue, red, and purple. Okay, so when it does that, when I receive orange, so when the snake receives orange, you want it to switch its costume to orange. And when the snake receives blue, you want to switch its costume to blue. And when the snake receives red, you want to switch its costume to red. And when the snake receives purple, you want to switch its costume to purple. Additionally, you also want to switch the loading screen, to the game screen, because so far we're only on the loading screen. So you do that to switch backdrop to game screen. So copy that a bunch of times. Whoops, I'm just gonna space these out better. And bam, that's it. So that should be pretty much all the code. Let's check. And yeah, let's test it. And if we're forgetting anything, we'll see it when we test it. Okay, so we're gonna start the game. And oh, we forgot to hide the basketball. I thought we hit, oh no, we never hit the basketball. So we were able to immediately see that and hide it. So start the game once again. What color do you want your snake to be? And let's say red. And now, yeah, it was successfully switched the costume to red, and you can see the snake got longer. And yeah, we're able to successfully control the snake. And if it goes onto the white, it's going to stop the game. So yeah, that's our game, and it's working. So yeah, this is basically the skeleton of this game, and you can make your backdrops look better, and you can make your sprites look better, and etc. And you could basically customize this game however you want to. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you later. Bye, guys.